What's up guys, Tara here for Rev3 Games, and today I'm hanging out with James Lopez, producer at Gearbox Software. You've been working on all the DLC for Borderlands 2, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So what's new today?
Well, today we're looking at the third campaign DLC. It's called Sir Hammerlocks Big Game Hunt, and it takes place on entirely new content called Agris.
Let me guess, there's hunting.
Yes, there's quite a bit of it actually. In fact, it'll go well beyond the campaign. It's quite lengthy.
Excellent. Well, we've got Adam playing the game back here for us. I've been told that this is an extremely challenging DLC.
Well, Sir Hammerlock wants you to go on a weekend trip with them, just for the friends, to go out here and hunt big game. Agris is full of it, and it's the kind of big game hunting that you can't find on the mainland. And you come out here to hunt some new creatures and some old, but the new ones include some creatures like Scalians and Borderlands and Drifters. Although the Drifters, some of our hardcore fans might remember from General Knox's Armory from Borderlands 1.
What ho, Vault Hunter! Welcome to Agris. The lodge is just up the path here. Stick close and we should arrive with no trouble.
What kind of, what's the main story in this quest? Are you just kind of hunting everywhere, or like who else do we meet here?
It certainly starts off that way, but very quickly your hunting expedition gets interrupted by the Agrin Savages, which are just people that got stuck on Agris before all the gun manufacturers pulled out. And they went tribal, and they have their own unique weapons and abilities, but now they're being led by an evil Hyperion mastermind named Professor Nakayama.
Professor Nakayama.
Yes.
He just sounds evil. Is that racist? Maybe.
Probably not.
So, what's the history of this planet? Because this is a completely new continent we're on right now.
Well, we don't talk too much about the history, but we definitely try to communicate this idea of being kind of like this place that time forgot. No one really goes there. You're not going to see any settlements. You're not going to see any other NPCs that you saw in the main game. So like Marcus isn't out here, Zed is not out here. This is a place that's just completely cut off. No one comes here. In fact, it's probably quite by accident that Nakayama ended up out here in the first place. And Hammerlock takes you out here because there's so much dangerous wildlife out here. Why would anybody else come out here? Like, unless they just want to hunt.
So we've got, these are the Savages, right, that we're fighting right now?
Yes, and we're actually seeing quite a few. In fact, right there is the Witch Doctor. The Burning Witch Doctor is the fire variant of them, but the Witch Doctor is essentially the group leader of the Savages for any kind of combat. And he has a very wide array of attacks and things that he can do. He can turn into a tornado and attack you with it, which is very devastating.
That happened to me earlier. It was horrifying.
If you get caught on a ledge, he's going to toss you right off it, which is going to be very frustrating. He can also do some very interesting attacks. So if he's an elemental, he can throw that at you from his staff. He can also do a singularity attack, which will suck you in, kind of like what the Wormhole Threshers did in the main game. The most important things that he does, though, is that he can actually buff his allies, the other Savages. He can heal them, and he can level them up. It's all the mayhem of dealing with the Goliaths whenever their helmets go off, but with larger numbers. And the Witch Doctor himself, as you can see, is pretty tough. I mean, he's getting hit hard by that turret, and he's still standing.
Yeah.
He has plenty of time to help out his other Savages to just pulverize you. Luckily, Adam managed to take out most of them fairly quickly this time.
I was going to say, it seems like Axton is a really good choice for this DLC because you can just kind of throw your turret out there and then go hide in the corner.
Absolutely, especially if you spec it out to have things like an extra turret or to have the Phalanx shield. These are things that can really help you out if you're getting hit hard with the shield. You can just jump inside and have a few moments to regenerate your shield. If you go with the extra turret instead, then what that allows is just for more cover fire. Everyone else, everyone is suited to survive here on Agris, just in different ways. I think that for character classes that do not heal quickly, they need to err on the side of caution. But they also have their own abilities that allow them to move through. Things like Maya can Thought Lock, And she can turn, if she does it right, she can turn the Witch Doctor on everyone else, which is probably the best thing to happen for you.
See, and I was playing as Maya, and I had a really high health regen, and even then I was dying so often. I mean, you really have to rethink your gameplay strategy here, because you can't just hit a few guys and then go hide, wait to reload, and wait for your health to come back up, because they will level up as you're doing that.
Absolutely, and there's no real cap on it either. I've seen enemies go 7 levels up, which puts them way beyond your normal abilities. So you really have to kind of decide what you want to target first, the Savages or the Witch Doctor. But whichever one you want to do, once you decide on it, you need to stick to it, because if you start to flip-flop, you're going to get hurt.
Can you, if I was playing as Maya and I wanted to phase lock the Witch Doctor, would he be able to buff people while he's phase locked, or do any of the stuff that he normally does?
Not while he's locked. And if he's thought locked, he won't buff any of them. He'll attack them and use some of his offensive abilities. Unfortunately, he won't level you up, though.
And he can also debuff you, right?
Yes, he can slow you down, which, if you're trying to run out of combat, can be a bit of a problem.
So where are we headed right now in the game?
All right, well, we're heading down to where the Catch-A-Boat station is. The Catch-A-Boat station is where you are going to unlock the fan boat, which is the new vehicle for this DLC.
How is this different from previous ones?
Well, first off, it looks different. It handles kind of similar to the Sand Skiff from Pirates Booty, but it also has very different abilities. It's I'd say it's far stronger. It has 3 different kinds of weapons you can choose from. An elemental bomb is probably my favorite, but a close runner-up is also going to be the flamethrower.
Flamethrower.
Bolt Hunter, I fear things are
I got hit by one of the boats with the electric things earlier, and man, don't get near those ever. 5 seconds and you are dead. Oh, there's one right now.
So this is firing the corrosive grenade right now, and the other one's throwing the shock. If you get tagged by one of these, it's very persistent, but they're going to generally land onto the ground. So as long as you don't walk over them or get hit by them, you're pretty safe. But if you do get tagged, you're in for a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Something that you mentioned earlier was about how you walked into the room and got hit really hard. And that's an excellent point, which is you can't just rush in head first. Anyone who thinks that they're just going to be able to mow everyone down alone probably won't succeed with that strategy. We really designed this DLC to be challenging, especially because we're making the assumption that most players at this point have already completed the main game and are looking for a new challenge, not a supplemental challenge.
Is there any level requirement for this DLC?
Strictly speaking, no, but we do assume that you've completed the Talon of God, which is the final mission. So if you complete that without doing any side quests, you're going to be level 30. Maybe level 31. If you've done some or all of the side quests up to that point, you'll be around 33 to 34. So we definitely want you to, we've definitely anticipated that and planned for you to be around that point. If you go into level 30, the enemies will be level 30. If you go any lower, they'll still be at level 30. But if you go any higher, they match to your level.
Okay. Yeah, I was playing as 32 earlier, and it was still incredibly challenging.
Yeah. I mean, Adam's down right now, and if you see the sparkling effect on, that's because he's debuffed by the Witch Doctor. Now, he killed him, so it went away, which is great. But that will persist for some time if he doesn't take him down fast enough.
Uh-oh. Get him. Get him. First death of the evening. No. Spoke too soon. Damn.
Oh, and that was just a level up right there. Went from 32 to 33. This guy went to 35. As you can see, he's a higher level. He's going to be more aggressive. He's going to have more hit points. Right now, the Warriors are the melee class. There are also the Triggermen, which of course are the gun classes. That tornado right there is actually the Witch Doctor. While in that mode, it's pretty impossible to kill him. You might be able to get off a lucky shot, or if you phase lock him, you can stop him. But in general, he's going to be hard to kill during that point. You can see that he's healing people right now, and which makes for a tough time.
Can he spawn new guys or just heal them?
He can summon some enemies.
Okay. Man.
Yeah.
Witch Doctors.
We really wanted to try to provide a challenge this time around. I mean, we've always tried to do that with all of the games, but this time we really wanted to try to look at the combat and see ways that we could really provoke players to do new gameplay styles.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier that, you know, a lot of the feedback that you guys got from the first 2 DLCs was that it just kind of felt like Borderlands, but reskinned, you know, in a new area with a couple sort of different enemies. But this, like, it really requires an entire strategy change, it seems like.
Absolutely. You can't just be super confident about what's going to happen. I think anyone that goes in thinking that the warriors are just the psycho bandits are going to be very surprised. I mean, right off the bat, they have the shield, which might seem cosmetic, but it'll block quite a few of those shots. Adam's having to hit the head to try to knock off the mask or hit around the side. And whenever you're doing those things, you're doing diminished damage. So you really need to try to sidestep or try to lock them or use something like the turret to distract them, because they'll almost always go for the turret. So that allows you to move around from behind and finish them off where they're vulnerable.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them also have elemental powers built in, right?
Absolutely. In fact, most of the shamans that you've seen have been either fire or shock. There are some that are just normal, but you're more likely to see like the slag doctor, the fire doctor, and the shock doctor.
The drifters!
Yes.
They're so creepy.
Yeah, I think they look great.
I agree, they look terrific. Like, it's too well done.
I think that, I don't know, I think I think definitely they're gross, and the fact that their erectness kind of resonates with some people. They also come in quite a few varieties. They're not just all walking on 4 legs. You'll see 2-legged drifters, and you'll see the wetland drifters, and pretty broad variety. We've tried to mix things up as much as possible so that people don't really feel bored with the enemies. If you look at these are 3 different kind of attacks. There's the flamethrower, the corrosive, and the shock, and you can use them all right off the bat. You also get new customizations for the vehicle. We try to keep things fresh each time that we introduce a new vehicle.
Did you pick the shock one, Adam?
I actually was being killed.
No.
So if you look behind the drifter, you'll see a little yellowish green thing flying off in the background. It kind of looks like a cross between a jellyfish and a flower, and that is a spore. And the spore, in and of itself, is not really aggressive, but can be drawn into combat, at which time it basically becomes an organic elemental barrel.
Oh, so close.
So if you fire at it, it'll come on over. It'll take a little bit of time, but it'll come on over. And this is the giant explosive spore. It's going to take quite a bit of damage unless you hit it in the critical spot. And in fact, understanding the critical spots for enemies in this DLC is very important. I was going to say critical. It's very important because otherwise you can spend a lot of time shooting them in the less sensitive areas and just going through all of your ammo. And since there can be, you know, some serious time before you get to another ammo machine, that can be problematic.
Yeah.
As you see, whenever they blow up into smaller pieces and are very dangerous. Now, what's really cool is that you can draw these guys into a crowd of enemies, blow them up there, and then they'll fall down and hurt everything else around you, which is really helpful, especially with drifters, because drifters take a lot of damage.
They're kind of cute, I'm not gonna lie. They look like little sea turtles or something without heads or bodies.
Yes, the majestic exploding sea turtles of the air.
The majestic floating sea turtle.
I'm going to be honest, I hope I never really run into one because I feel like it wouldn't turn out that well for me, especially because I don't have a shield.
So how much of the continent is actually explorable here?
You know, I'd say a considerable amount. I mean, there's the horizontal plane, which is, of course, the ground level, but there's also a lot of vertical space that you can explore. For instance, whenever you go up through this path there's going to be a long winding route, but there's also another area where you go straight down and up. You can actually, where that ridgeline is, you actually go up there. The maps are, I mean, they're obviously large, but they're deceptively large because there's actually a lot more room to explore than you might think otherwise. We really want to kind of give people this feeling of being able to explore this area. It's not just about hunting. It's kind of supposed to be about going into an entirely new area and having a new experience.
And hunting lots of stuff.
And hunting lots of stuff. And there's some really great rewards that go along with that. The monsters that are part of the big game hunt has some very great gear that you can acquire through them. So you definitely want to do them as soon as possible because there's some great stuff you can get there. They're all Hammerlock themed gear. It's the kind of thing that a gentleman takes hunting with them. And they all have a new skin that looks just like the stuff that Hammerlock carries. They're pretty powerful. I think my favorite one is the sniper rifle because you can actually get Hammerlock sniper rifle and it's pretty powerful.
No legendary weapons or anything like that?
No legendary weapons. We do have new Seraph gear also, which of course you get by getting Seraph crystals from killing Seraph Guardians. And we do have a new Seraph Guardian raid boss as well. You're not going to see it in this preview, but he's pretty tough. I think he's probably our toughest raid boss yet. I really hope that people enjoy him. As the game's been out longer and longer, we've really tried to understand just how powerful the gear is that's out there and the different ways that you can use it to be effective. And what we're discovering is that some guns are much more stronger than we thought they were going to be, especially whenever you stack them with badass ranks and the different skill combinations, class mods, you name it. So every time that we release a raid boss, it's really with this goal of trying to compensate for those things, not make it unrealistically hard, but to try to provide a challenge that requires a very strong understanding of the game.
That's good.
So these are the Borderlands, which is one of the new creatures that's indigenous to Agris. And they come in a lot of different varieties. Some are armored, some are not. We have, of course, the badass versions and the elemental versions. I mentioned earlier about crit spots. It's very important that the player understand the creatures that he's fighting, much like in the way that a hunter would, because if you assume that the critical region is the same for all enemies, you're going to be very surprised and waste a lot of ammo and take quite a bit of damage.
How much content are you guys planning to include with this one?
You know, we're trying to have probably about a standard experience as far as length goes across all of the DLC. I think you can expect about the same that you would get from Pirate's Booty or Campaign of Carnage, especially whenever you look at the hunting missions, because the hunting missions aren't just about going out and to point A and killing the creature. There are some mechanics involved. Some only come out at night, some come only out during the day. Some require the smell of fresh blood to be in the air. There are traps that you can set. There are sometimes objects that you have to acquire and use for the hunt. So we definitely don't want it to feel like you're just driving from A to B and then killing something.
Yeah. And the area we just entered is where?
This is Scylla's Grove. It's the next map in this sequence. It has multiple levels, like you can see, and you're going to explore the ground level for a giant scallion, which is sort of it looks an awful lot like a scorpion. It has its own lair that you're going to explore to try to find it, and of course it's not going to be that easy. And of course there's also this vertical space up here, like you can see that there's some kind of village up here that's definitely inhabited by the savages. There's a lot of room to explore here, and there's also a lot of caves that we want you to kind of drive around in, because you never know what you're going to find around each corner.
I'm into the aesthetic of this whole level, the like kind of creepy fog, but also the green water everywhere.
We had some really positive feedback from Jacob's Cove, which was from the Zombie Island DLC for Borderlands 1. People really dug the kind of the swamp feeling, the mist, the limited visibility at times. That's something that we really wanted to try to look back into. This is a scaling right here.
Wow, these things are creepy.
I love this animation where it flips over to the other side and it's also offensive, because you think that it's flipping over because it took damage and isn't going to do anything. But as you can see, it's still lobbing attacks at you.
Yeah. Man, these guys are heavily armored as well, it seems like.
Having good gear is going to be very helpful. If someone just goes in with a bunch of whites and greens, it's going to be pretty tough. People that take the time to really get some good rare guns are going to have a much, I wouldn't say a much easier time, but it will be a little bit easier for them. And as you can see right there, some were armored, some were not. We're trying to have a very robust variety of creatures for every type.
So how many new enemy types can we expect to see in this DLC?
I'd say there's 8 to 10. There's several new unique creatures, as well as with their own levels inside of it. We're trying to branch out as much as possible so that you don't feel like you're just seeing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Man, these things are ruthless.
Yeah, and so you see that Adam's just shooting it straight on, and they're not taking that much damage. When you understand the crit spots and have them from their weaker points, that's where the real efficiency comes in. Also, his turret's a bit of a beast, which also helps.
It really does. I'm wishing I'd played as Axton now. I think Maya might have been the wrong choice.
I think it just really depends on the play style. I think if you go in with something like Thought Lock or some kind of singularity attack, it's going to really help you to manage crowds. The trick is, if you're going to go one-on-one, you need to take them out quickly. But crowd control is very important. I think the turret does a great job of that. Someone who's really good at the Gunzerker won't really have a problem though if they're running a very strong DPS. And if you play a zero and you really kind of just whittle down their health towards like in a key area, you can chain the melees so that you're just, when you're in deception mode, just jump from one to the next to the next. but timing is important.
Isn't it always? So level cap increase,
Yes.
is that a thing we're going to be seeing in this DLC?
It will not be in this DLC, although it will be coming out in Q1 of next year.
Okay, is that going to be in a different DLC maybe, or a patch, or something else?
No real word on that yet, but we should have some more information on that soon.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, James.
Thank you, Tara.
This is going to be out on January 15th, right?
Yes, and it'll be free for people that already have the season pass, and for everyone else it'll be $9.99.
Excellent, $9.99. Get your wallets out.
Okay.